Want to know what your dog is thinking?
Have a challenging dog behavior you need help with?
The Dish on Dogs is your source for all your canine questions.
Improve your relationship with your dog and deepen your understanding of your furry friend. Right here on the Dish on Dogs. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to another exciting episode of the Dish on Dogs. I'm your host, Mike Gould, affectionately sometimes known as the Mayor of Houndstown, USA. The Dish on Dogs is a show about dogs. Sometimes we talk about the business of running a pet care facility. Sometimes we talk about dogs. That's what I enjoy talking about. Pets, dogs, your dogs at home and your dogs at Houndstown. Joining me is the very lovely Jackie Bondanza, who is the brains of this operation. She's the human brains of this operation. So, Jackie, hello. How are you? How's your neocortex today?
I mean, I think it's good. I don't know. How's your mammalian brain?
My mammalian brain is good. My executive brain is tingling. My pheromones are released. I've had a couple of cups of coffee, so I am bubbling.
That's always dangerous.
It's dangerous, but you know, it's really I'm revitalized, and a lot of the revitalization has to do with a lot of the great things that's happening at Houndstown. Specifically, what your human brain was making happen here. So what are we going to talk about today?
So today we're actually going to focus on a couple dog myths. You know, over the past 22 years we've been doing this, we have had thousands and thousands of customers, right? Yes. And you know, we meaning you get asked a lot about dog behavior and why does my dog do this at home? Why does he do that at home? So we thought we'd take the top kind of 2 or 3 myths and debunk them.
Debunk them?
Yeah.
It's like the Kennedy assassination or something?
I mean, we have only got about 15 minutes.
Okay, so 15 minutes. We'll talk in generalizations, right? Yeah. Just very general, not going into taking a deep dive into human and dog psychology. We've done this many, many times. We talk about the human brain, the mammalian brain. But we should begin these conversations, always, considering anthropomorphic behavior.
Yes.
Anthropomorphism. You know, we're stuck in it. I'm stuck in it. So anthropomorphism, in the truest sense of the word, or by definition, is just viewing dogs as humans and treating them like humans, and treating animals in general like humans.
And like ascribing human traits to a dog.
Right.
So treating a dog like a child when the dog is in fact an animal.
Right. And it's almost impossible not to be. So
right.
I'm anthropomorphic in some regard, but I try to constantly remove myself and projecting human behaviors on dogs and trying to figure out, try to treat a dog like a human.
Right, but in fairness, we're human, right? So dog owners are human. All you can do is come at this from your own perspective, right? Yes. So some of these myths they're correlations that as humans we make and assume, but until we start talking to customers about them and helping them understand why they may not be viewing it the right way. Right. That's just our natural kind of fallback.
Yeah. It's not a question of ignorance or stupidity. You're exactly right. That's our only frame of reference. So right. we only have a human nose, a human eye, and human hands to understand animals, period, or anything. So it's not stupidity, but we don't smell the world. Dogs smell their world. We don't. We see the world. Dogs don't. So right from that point of view, and they live 18 inches off the ground, which we always talk about, we don't. So all of these things are so challenging, and now more than ever, for the human brain, the executive brain, to understand the dog brain. Mm-hmm. So what are some of the myths you want to talk about?
So one of the myths, and we teach this a lot to our employees, right, and our franchisees, a wagging tail is always the sign of a happy dog.
Right.
So can you talk a little bit about why that's not necessarily true?
Right. Absolutely. So again, for me, the best way to do these things is human analogies. Mm-hmm. So a smiling, laughing person is usually the sign of a happy person, right? If you go to a party and everything you say somebody laughs about or smiles about, that would give us the sense that they're happy and laughing. Very frequently, they're nervous, and it's a nervous reaction to that, right? So you see it all the time. Just go tell a bad joke to somebody at a party, and 3 or 4 or 5 people are going to laugh.
You probably have had that experience.
It happens to me every day. Every day. See, they're laughing at me now.
nervous laughter.
Nervous
they don't want to get fired.
Right. And the truth of the matter is, with the nervous laughter, if eye contact, without getting too deep into it, eye contact and so forth. So a wagging tail is a level of anxiety that usually means a happy dog or a content. I don't even know if happy. I choose my words so carefully because happiness and love and hate and all of these things are human emotions that dogs don't.
Right.
So I have a tendency to be anthropomorphic, but so a wagging tail generally is a content dog. And, then if you add extra body movements to that, like, the butt's wiggling back and forth and their ears are, so that whole, the full scope of the dog.
It's the whole kind of picture that you have to take into consideration, right?
Right, sure, because I've seen very dominant dogs, they wag their tail, but they're dominant.
Right.
And then when they're in a position of really exercising their dominance, their tail will stop very quickly and they can become aggressive or dominant.
Or, haven't you seen, I feel like I've seen this, again, it's rare, but it can happen where a dog is excitable, and it doesn't necessarily mean happy excitable.
Right. Well, happy, again, is a human word. Absolutely. And then the other thing you have to realize, just because you may be happy right now, just because doesn't mean I can touch your ear and pat you on the head. So you're happy right now in the second of time at this social distance of 3 feet. But if I come and put my nose on your nose, that happiness will go away in a nanosecond.
So you're saying the dog's level of happiness, or whatever that equates to in the kind of the dog's world, it can change very quickly if you invade that dog's space.
Absolutely.
Maybe a dog across the street, if you're walking and your dog starts wagging his tail and kind of jumping and lunging and barking, it seems like the dog is happy. But then as that other dog approaches, their dog's stance can change very quickly if he feels threatened, right? Which is common on a leash. Dogs can feel threatened on a leash.
Absolutely, and we have what we call leash aggression. Absolutely. But this happens in humans, and this is the whole point that I struggle with teaching people. If there was an earthquake right now, or the ground started shaking, for us humans, we would go back to our mammalian brain and be nervous, right? Just by that little, if the lights went out, any change of an environment would change our happiness. Mm-hmm. If I picked up a spider and put it on the desk here, where most humans have a phobia of spiders or reptile, whatever your fear or phobia is, when I present that, your demeanor will change in a nanosecond. So it happens to humans, it happens in dogs. It happens to dogs more frequently because there are captives, so to speak, and they're living in our environment.
Well, and they don't understand a lot of things that are going on, right? So
Absolutely
they don't
not.
have the capability of understanding, this is a coffee cup, this is coffee, this is the noise outside is a truck. So we're assuming, right? Because that's, like you said, that's our only point of reference. But when we take a minute to think about it, actually reading a dog's body language, understanding what does a wagging tail mean, it can mean several different things, but it's based on and connected to the context. So what else is the dog doing? I've seen an aggressive dog actually, wagging his tail, but the rest of his body language says otherwise, right? So a wagging tail on one dog where there's body language is one way means something different than a wagging tail on another dog who's, like you said, the butt's wiggling and they're kind of, you can tell that they're friendly. So it's never either or. There's always a different, a more complicated picture to it.
Absolutely. And we know this. This is, again, my frustration is as humans, you know this, because in every social setting you go into, whether you're going to buy a used car, the salesman might be smiling, happy, and come to you. But that might not be his authentic self, so to speak. So we're making these judgments about our safety. So dogs you have to just put it in context of the moment in time. You talked about leash aggression. So a dog's tail can be wagging back and forth and be, I like to use the word content, very content, or maybe enthusiastic or exuberant. I'm not sure of the word happiness, but and so then you put the leash on, and it sees another dog, and the tail stops wagging. It becomes very tense. They start barking. You start pulling back on the leash, and that creates this phenomena that we now call leash aggression. Because think of the number of animals out of the 8 million dogs or animals there are. How many animals do you see on a leash?
Yeah, it's really just dogs.
Right, right.
And maybe a pig or a cat here or there.
Yeah, but it's not. You're right, but it shouldn't be, right? We know
Right.
that you don't walk an alligator or a polar bear on a leash.
Right.
You know, so
Well, this is why I think people often, it's hard to read your dog's body language sometimes when you're walking them down the street. It's obviously a very common problem. You know, but to the opposite way, I've heard a lot of people say over the years, well, my dog doesn't like other dogs because he lunges and barks and he's wagging his tail, you know, at them across the street when we're on a walk. That could be a sign that the dog just wants to interact with the other dog in a friendly way, right? So it's difficult to assume, it's wrong to assume that just one behavior or one body stance, one thing like a wagging tail means one thing, right?
Absolutely. So my advice is for everybody to take a step backwards. Just stop psychoanalyzing and watch your dog's behavior in relationship to its environment, because at the end of the day, that's what we're doing. So what does that mean? Like you quite correctly said, dogs don't know anything. They really don't. They don't know what mirrors are. They don't know what tile floor is. They don't know what nylon carpet is. They don't know anything. And they live 18 inches off the ground, and we immerse them. We drop them. We've taken them away from their pack of siblings, their natural pack, and dropped them into a human world that they have no concept of. So it's important for us not to try to teach them in human. Just breathe, step back, and watch your dog's behavior. See what happens. What stops the dog's tail wagging? Is it you stand up from your couch, does it stop? Or when you sit down, it starts to wag? I almost guarantee those simple movements of standing up and getting low will change the behavior of the wagging tail.
So that's a good segue into myth number 2, which is you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Why is that not true?
Right. So first of all, you know, the word trick is what a lot of humans do, and they shouldn't be doing it. So I can't tell you the number of times that I see humans, and it frustrates me. I go to dog parks, and I see people like putting pressure on the dog to sit, to stay. They're pushing their butts down, you know, and it's so toxic to me. I was at a dog park in San Diego recently, and it's a dog park. It's supposed to be for dogs, not humans. I would argue the humans shouldn't even be in the damn place.
Right.
And one person's asking the dog to lay down and sit and stay. And when I ask people, you know, I come across people, they're yelling at their dog, sit, sit, sit. They're offering him a treat. The dog's not sitting. And I ask them, why are you doing that? And if they're self-reflective, and most people will say, I don't know, I thought I was supposed to. So every time you're walking your dog down the street in Manhattan, you don't have to ask him to sit at every light.
Right.
So we're projecting again. This is another projection. And I ask people, why are you asking your dog to sit? It's not going to happen. The traffic, the noise, the distractions. Just like the dog in the back seat of your car. You're screaming, sit, lay down. It's impossible to lay down.
And it's okay as long as the dog is obedient and he's not pulling you all over the place, you don't have to be over controlling.
Right, exactly.
But this myth is actually related more to the dog's age and the concept that take the trick part out.
Yeah.
You can't teach a dog anything new.
Absolutely ridiculous. Because dogs are hardwired to understand boundaries and consistency. So the very fact of the matter is, can you teach a human, an old human, new tricks? That is the question. And very frankly, it's very difficult. The older we get, especially you, the smarter you think you are, and the less likely you are to listen to something else. I'm sorry.
Nervous laughter.
Right, nervous laughter. So, yeah, that's just the way it is. So when I'm teaching, when I like to teach people about animals, 10-year-olds, 8-year-olds, 12-year-olds, they're in a learning mode, number one, because every human being and every adult is teaching them things every minute of their lives. So they're being bombarded by education. So if I'm a good teacher, an 8-year-old, 10-year-old, they are open to understand this. Humans, or adults, I should say, they're gone. They're not listening. They're thinking about yesterday and tomorrow. Kids and dogs generally live in the moment of time.
And I've seen dogs, customers come in with dogs and they're 8, 9, 10 years old, and they pick up on this in 5 minutes. It's so natural to them, especially kind of how we teach dogs here at Houndstown and behaviorally when we help customers with dog training. So it's just a fake news, like we would say, that older dogs can't learn how to
of course not.
be obedient. It's not about, to differentiate, it's not about training a dog to do tricks, right? It's training a dog to be obedient and to follow boundaries and leadership and structure. That is definitely something that older dogs can absolutely do.
Right. And this is fundamental problem that these conversations we're having. I mean, our human brain can develop definitions. So when we talk about trained and obedience, we're really talking about a social pack animal subordinating to the leadership of another social pack animals. In this case, it's humans. The confusion comes is we're never going to be dogs. So we have to constantly fight to try to understand a dog. It doesn't go by its age. It doesn't go by its breed. It's so clear to me, and it's therefore so frustrating to me because I don't have an overdeveloped neocortex. So I try.
We know.
You know that, right? That's clear. But my point is, how many times do people come in the lobby? I can't think of the time they just say, "This is my dog." And he's this, that. They always start with a whole background, the breed. I'm down in Florida the other day, somebody telling somebody their dog is a dorky, a dachshund Yorkie mix. What does that mean? Who do you meet? The next time you go to a wedding, who leads with their their labels, their human labels? They don't.
Well, I think we are drawn to categorizing things and labeling things. So we're doing it inadvertently, imposing that on dogs. So. So definitely old dogs can learn new tricks. We see it every day, all the time.
If we're talking about tricks as boundaries, that's all I'm saying. So when we simplify it to subordination, happy subordination. So dogs by nature, they're pack animals just like children. Babies are wired to subordinate to leadership and boundaries. The question is, do parents set up boundaries and are they consistent?
Right,
And
but unlike with the human, I would say as people get older, kids get older, it becomes harder to set boundaries if you haven't done it before, right? Or earlier in the child's life.
Right.
Dogs are different. They're not the same as that.
Exactly.
So it's the opposite.
They're not living in the past or the future. They're living in the moment. So when you change your behavior, the human changes their behavior by not looking, talking, touching, and completely involving yourself on the dog's behavior will change.
Okay, let's talk quickly about this third myth. It's really less of a myth and more of a question. I've actually had a few people comment about this because they've gotten pandemic puppies over the last couple months. Some dogs pee in an owner's bed. What's the reason for that?
Okay. All right. So okay. Let's think about it. So first of all, when we talk about dogs urinating, there's urination, meaning their bladder is full, they have to go to the bathroom.
Right.
Or for lack of a better word, bathroom. They have to relieve themselves because their bladder is full. That's urination, and that can be seen by a steady stream of urine, a quantity of urine that's very clear that they're relieving their bladder. The second type of release of urine is marking. So we always talk about marking behavior. So usually your dog, if it's very, like you said, people, not only do they pee on the bed or the pillow, they pee on the owners. Right? I can't tell you how many times, right? They're like, the dog peed on my leg.
But and the thing that people automatically think is, oh, I didn't let him out. He had to go to the bathroom, and he just happened to be in the bed, and he's relieving himself. So that's the myth in this, is that there's a big difference between marking and relieving your leaving the bladder.
And again, you don't have to be an animal behaviorist. You don't have to know. You ask yourself, is the dog urinating or marking? And it goes by the volume. Where is he doing it? Very rarely is a dog. Yeah, so that's the thing, the differentiator. You got to know what it is. And then think about it as this way. Dogs mark behavior. It's a sign of dominance. Right. So if you ever seen a dog, you're walking down the street and some dogs lift their legs so high, it looks like they're going to flip over.
Yeah.
They're very dominant, but some of them, they get to a fire hydrant or a telephone pole and they lift their leg up so high to urinate. And the idea behind that is the higher they can get their urine, for the next dog coming along, they're like, wow, there's a big ass dog in this place. It's like, is it a dog or is it a monster? So
that's funny.
Yeah. And then the more subordinate ones is puppies. You say, oh, people get embarrassed, right? They'll say, oh, my dog doesn't even lift his leg. He still only squats.
Oh, yeah.
And when we ask how old, he's 3, 4, 5, 6 months old. Usually they've been neutered or whatever, without going into all the details. So marking is a very important component to establishing boundaries for dogs. So if it's peeing on your pillow, it's saying you're subordinate to me. This is my pillow. You're mine. If they're peeing on your leg, they have that concept that you're you're subordinate to them.
Right. And that's obviously the time you've got to take a few steps back, and the dog shouldn't be on the bed. You got to reestablish your kind of your leadership
Jackie,
there.
Perfectly put, Jackie. Yeah, so you reestablish it's not the end of the world. You don't have to pay $350 for an animal behaviorist. Make sure you have the leadership or authority to tell your dog to get off the bed. That's simple behavior. Again, it's not a trick. You don't invite him up on the bed. You control him. He doesn't control you.
Yep.
And that's what marking is. Marking is dogs come in our lobby, they pee, and it's a natural thing. It's ownership. They're letting the other dog know, hey, I'm around. Here's my urine. And what most people don't Jackie,
hey, I'm around. Here's my urine.
We're adults, Jackie. So
no, it's just funny. It's just a funny thing.
But here's
to think
the
about.
remarkable thing, and then we'll segue off this show. Urine to one dog to another tells everything or a lot. It's like a blood test or an analysis. They know the age, the sex, the condition the dog's in just for our urine. That's why dogs are sniffing our feet all the time. They get this.
Well, like Temple Grandin says, they have to check their pee mail.
Pee mail. That's a more juvenile way of putting it. But yes, they check their pee mail.
Cute.
Yeah, it is cute. It's very cute.
All right.
Go ahead.
We're over our time here.
All right,
so
great,
we got
Jackie.
to 3 myths. There obviously are many, many more, but these are some of the common ones I hear over the past couple months or so from some people.
Absolutely.
So, all right. Well, thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see everybody next time.
Yes.
Thanks for watching another exciting episode of the Dish on Dogs podcast. You can also watch us on YouTube on the Dish on Dogs podcast. If you're a listener, you can catch us on iTunes, Spotify, and all your other podcast platforms. For more information, click the link in the description. We'll see everybody next time.